There was a time when Apple and Samsung were the market leader in every individual smartphone lineups. But now it's more likely comparing iPhones and Samsung phones with those of Chinese phones like OnePlus, like Xiaomi. And in many ways, they are better. But is it right? Let's talk about it. So people have assumably defined Chinese smartphone as like the market leaders of nowadays smartphone. They're better in every ways, like batteries, like displays, like overall futuristic design of the phone. And people moreover tells that they are better than the global brands like, Apple and Samsung. But that is not 100% true. The first thing they have likely to improve is charging. Charging is the most required amount of thing in a smartphone. Now let's take Chinese phone. Let's take OnePlus. They have 7500 mAh of silicon carbon battery, and the concentration of carbon in it is the highest among any of the carbon silicon. As well as Xiaomi 17 Pro Max, they also use a silicon carbon battery, and it has 71 mAh of battery. Comparing that to iPhone 17 Pro Max, it just have 5100 mAh. Comparing that to the Samsung S26 Ultra, which just launched in March, they also come up with only 500 mAh of battery. Now, they are not silicon carbon, they are lithium ion. But the thing is, this silicon carbon is much more likely to charge faster, deplete less than that of lithium ion. They works more over time. They segregate less heat, and etc, etc. So these smartphones have been using this new technology as an early adopters and making a shift in the charging. Now you can say that longevity would be affected because of this, but that does not particularly defines how a smartphone company should work, because if there is a new tech, you should definitely adopt it so that would be working fine for the other people as well, no matter how much company, how much amount of people you're covering with, because Xiaomi is a very big brand, OnePlus is a very big brand, they also deals with thousands and thousands of people, and Apple as well. And if you're arguing about that companies have less people to target on, that's not true. Both deals with millions of customers selling their smartphone. So Apple is trying to manipulate people. Okay, we are someone who is making smartphone and would most likely consider the longevity of the battery instead of adopting a new tech. We still don't know that longevity would be affected because of that silicon carbon, but Apple is still refusing to adopt it, as well as Samsung and as well as Google. Talking more on charging, they come up with 100 watts, 240 watts of charging, 50 watts wireless charging, and Apple and Samsung still goes up to like 60 watts in wired mode, and in wireless mode 15 watts, 25 watt max to max. That is also a disadvantage if you are likely to talk it about like MagSafe or the wireless charging one. And one more thing about Chinese phone which nobody talks about is the cheaper you get in the Chinese market, you would most likely to assume that okay, you won't be getting a good deal in the smartphone, but that's not true. If you get cheaper, you still get 120 Hz refresh rate smartphones. By the time iPhone 16 have been arrived, they still don't have 120 Hz. They still have 60 Hz, and it's an $800 phone. On the other hand, like let's say Realme, let's say Poco, let's say iQOO, they still give 120 Hz of peak refresh rate in a mid-range phone like $120, $240, and there's not likely any of the screen with 120 Hz. That is just AMOLED display, giving you the AMOLED display at $250, 300 bucks, comparing that to 800, and it still gets 60 Hz. That's hilarious. More, and if you talk about, okay, the performance might be not good, but that's not the case. They still use a Snapdragon one. If you talk about one of the Realme phone, Realme 10 Pro Plus, they also have a Snapdragon 7 Gen S2, and they also come up with the latest generation of chipset having greatest performance, but the price of that phone is just 300 bucks. 300 bucks for that phone having Snapdragon 7S Gen 2, the same processor which was also present in the Nothing Phone 3. $800 phone. And moreover, if you talk about, okay, the software and the UI experience might not be good, that's not the case. If you talk about OnePlus UI, they have one of the best UIs ever made in an Android industry. But everything which comes with some sort of advantages comes with disadvantages. Okay, so let's assume, okay, these phones have all those quality to become the top brands of the world. They have better battery, they have good performance, they have all UI, best UI in Android skin. So why don't they get that much popularization, or people do not recommend moreover comparing with that Apple and Samsung? The thing is, there are multiple downsides of going to these phones. So 2 minutes before, I have talked about one of the $300 Realme phone which just comes with that Snapdragon 7 processor. That phone, that $300 phone, has a good processor, has good cameras, has good displays, but still get ads in their phone. And I'm not talking about normal ads. they get whole window of ad. If you try to open file manager, they'll be getting whole file manager covered with application, and there's a skip option. Can you imagine? Just a file manager, if you want to open that, inbuilt file manager comes with whole lot of ad. And it's important kind of for the company, but that's not for how you should sell your phone or how you should sell your UI. It's just making it rubbish. If you also talk about, okay, their camera sensor are good, but the camera processors are kind of not good. The camera shutter speed is nowhere comparing to that of Apple and Samsung. Their consistency of camera clicking pictures, processing of the images are nowhere closer to that of flagship or the Google Pixel. Pixel have one of the cleanest and some sort of well integrated color grading. Comparing that to these phones, even though they have kind of better sensors but not good quality of phone. They also come video quality, which is far better Apple's video quality than having good lenses does not make you overall camera experience great. It comes with processing, it comes with the video encoders and etc things, and that just been made by a good company, paying little tiny pixel peeping focus onto that software and making it better for the future as well as for the present. These companies are rebranded frequently. If you see, last model of Xiaomi does not have that Pro Max or Pro model variation, but this time it is. No matter how bad is the day or how bad is the company, they still launches multiple phones. Support for every individual phone for a longer period of time is not a longevity thing for that phone, and it cannot be compared with that of Apple and Samsung, which just launches one phone throughout the year and giving the support to 5 years and 6 year timeline. So if you are someone who looking for a longevity thing or the brand trust, there's no way of going to these Chinese phones. And talking about premiumness of the phone, there's no question about Apple, Samsung, Google, or the nothing phones. They are giving the peak line experience of premiumship to the user, and these companies do, but more over time to the flagship, not for the local phones. That's what the main problem is about. So instead of saying that Chinese phones are better, we can now say that Chinese phones are better in some sort of ways that could be expected or accepted by the users, but that is not far enough to consider a person buying that phone instead of that Apple or Samsung or their flagship phone or their trusted brands. So this can be reflected in a way that, okay, Chinese company adopts modern technology faster than those companies. They give us new trending features. They give us more detailed analysis of every individual phone. But whenever it talks about longevity, or we talk about brand premiumness or about trust, we always tends to go, or our layer is always heavier in terms of Apple and Samsung. So what you are purchasing, a Chinese phone or an global world giants like Apple and Samsung? Till the time you purchase a new phone, till the time, keep vibrating. Just like God.